So you've got this business idea. Great. How do you stand out in a crowded marketplace?
This is Aaron Rasmussen, a co-founder of MasterClass and the CEO of Outlier.org, an online college-level education platform.
So a typical business idea will sort of look like somebody coming up with something, getting really excited about it. I'd argue that thinking about how to get your idea to people is just as, if not more important than the idea itself. How do you figure out the most important part that you need to tell people about? How do you decide on what your unique selling point is? How do you distill the incredible complexity of your business and your idea into one single point? That's what positioning is.
Here's a show about the stuff you need to know to start and run a successful business. These are lessons from real-life experience. Welcome to B-School.
So basically I started programming computers when I was 5, and then I got a video camera when I was 7. So my two loves in life are like art and technical. And, even in college, people are like, those will never go together. And I'm like, joke's on you.
Aaron is an artist, an inventor, and serial entrepreneur. He started and sold companies involved in software, robotics, and energy drinks.
Earlier in a founder's career, they generally think more from a product standpoint, and later they generally think more from a marketing standpoint. And these are pretty different things. And this is where positioning comes into the whole concept of doing a business. Because essentially you have gas in your tank, which is the dollars you have to spend, or your time, or your connections, or whatever. And you want to make sure that you spend that going in the right direction. So positioning is coming down to the single, simple concept that will perk people up and get them to learn more about you. You don't get a chance to explain yourself to a consumer. So many times with positioning, the language of positioning is advertisements. Think about the way a movie is positioned. An entire movie is generally positioned using the trailer. When I grew up, movie trailers were like, bwom, alien spaceship, bwom, right? Now, it does a mini trailer for the first 5 seconds for the full trailer. So it's just like, bwom, spaceship.
Okay, movies can be positioned with trailers. How can you do this with a business?
There's a couple different styles of positioning. One, you can position something in the market as a benefit, and you're new. Another, you can reposition the rest of the market as being outdated. So Schlitz beer is a great example of repositioning the market. So back in the early 1900s, they used to deliver beer in bottles. So if you're Schlitz beer, how do you win amongst a not super differentiated market? They looked at this and said, what's a way we can reposition everyone else to make ourselves more attractive? And they came up with this whole campaign where their position was, Schlitz beer, we steam clean our bottles. Then you're looking at any other beer and you're like, gross. I bet they don't steam clean those. Now, the funny thing about this was everyone steam cleaned their bottles. So they figured out how to reposition the entire market with something they already did. This increased Schlitz beer sales by a lot.
That makes sense for Schlitz, but how do I apply this to my business idea?
So when you're thinking about the positioning of your product, step 1 is to list out the features, benefits, and what consumers are going to be using it. Step 2 is going to be how you narrow it down to the single position. And step 3 is to find the right way to get that in front of people. So when I first was thinking about Outlier.org, I took a road trip with my buddy Caesar, and he was like, hey, what are you thinking about doing after MasterClass? And I was like, okay, I have an idea, but it's going to take me an hour to explain it to you. And he's like, we got a 7-hour road trip. Let's do this thing. At the end of the day, what we do at Outlier.org is make ultra high quality, for-credit online education that's very affordable. That sounds almost like a positioning statement, but there's too many things already that I've told you in that sentence. So you can imagine what an hour looks like. A lot of college degrees are very hard to differentiate. So when we were doing research for Outlier.org, we started running surveys about why do you prefer online classes to in-person? And something came up a bunch, which embarrassingly, I had sort of forgotten about, which is the cost of gas. It's expensive to commute back and forth to community college. That matters to that consumer. So if I can tell you one thing, what is it? And we decided to go with price. It sounds like the most boring thing ever in a way, but it perks them up. So at the end of the day, what I'm going to try to convince you is that positioning is just you asking why. Why are you doing this? This isn't a mission question. This isn't about you saving the world. This is why should this exist? Because somewhere in there is going to be what your positioning should be. That's a really good place to start from.